Imagine a system where the very guardians of democracy are funded by those they're supposed to regulate. A thought-provoking concept, wouldn't you say? Now let's delve deeper and embark on a comprehensive journey to untangle the perplexing, twisted narrative of an infamous event, the Indian electoral bond scam. This story began in the fiscal year of 2017 to 18, a year like any other, but one that would soon be etched in the annals of history, and not for a good reason. The Bharatiya Janata Party, henceforward referred to as the BJP, the ruling political party at that time, proposed and introduced a unique tool. It was no ordinary tool. This was a mechanism intended to finance political parties, the very parties responsible for steering the country. This unique tool, presented as a panacea for all funding woes, was the electoral bonds. Now, at first glance, the notion of electoral bonds may seem benign, even convoluted. What are these electoral bonds, you may wonder? They are a type of financial instrument, specifically a bearer instrument that are issued by a scheduled commercial bank, but not without the express authorization of the central government. To put it simply, these bonds are a sophisticated means for any Indian citizen or a body incorporated in India to donate to political parties. The bonds are handed over to a political which can encash it through their bank accounts. The cherry on top of this scheme? The identity of the donor remains forever shrouded in mystery. The BJP in power at the time was perfectly poised to leverage this arrangement, and they did. However, the system was not without its detractors. The Supreme Court of India, the apex judicial body, the ultimate guardian of the Constitution, deemed them unconstitutional. The court emphatically stated that these bonds imposed an unfair restriction on the fundamental right of voters to know the source of a political party's funds. This was the first major setback, the initial blow to the system of electoral bonds. The BJP, however, remained the primary beneficiary of the bonds, and it wasn't a mere coincidence or stroke of luck. They amassed colossal funds amounting to a staggering 6,986 an astronomical figure that's hard to comprehend. The bonds had served their intended purpose. They had efficiently funded the party in power, but the real question loomed large: at what cost? But the controversy, friends, doesn't stop there. It's not just about who's swallowing the lion's share of the funds. It is also about where these funds originate from. Allegations began to surface that firms under investigation for corruption have been making hefty donations to political parties via these bonds. The allegations suggested that these firms were laundering their ill-gotten gains through this mechanism, a shocking revelation that raised questions about the ethicality of these bonds. From the ruling BJP to the opposition Trinamool Congress, reports started to emerge of several parties profiting from these dubious donations. Numerous private firms, currently under the watchful eyes of India's law enforcement agencies, have allegedly channeled millions of dollars through the electoral bonds to various political parties in power. This has led to growing concerns about the potential influence of these firms over policymaking and law enforcement. The bonds, initially intended to be a benign tool of funding, had quickly evolved into a sinister tool of corruption, a weapon of extortion, a method of influence. The pertinent question now became, how far had the bonds reached? How deep did this rabbit hole go? How extensive was the damage? As the nation gears up for the next election, these revelations had amplified apprehensions that the electoral bond mechanism has facilitated a quid pro quo arrangement between corporations and political parties. The bonds were tainting the entire system, casting a dark shadow and leaving behind the stench of extortion and corruption. The democracy of India was under assault, from within, a gut-wrenching reality to digest. The bonds had transformed. They were no longer just a financial tool, they were a political weapon. A weapon that was used to fund parties, influence policies, control law enforcement, and damage the very fabric of democracy. The bonds were a Trojan horse, a wolf in sheep's clothing, a contagion spreading through the body of Indian politics. This brings us to the end of our journey, through the intricate labyrinth of the Indian electoral bond scam. A labyrinth that has raised questions about the integrity of the democratic process and the transparency of political funding. This is a tale of intrigue, corruption, power, and the dangerous games that are played in the echelons of politics. This is a story about the very guardians of democracy, funded by those they are meant to regulate, a paradox that continues to shake the foundations of Indian politics. How does this story end? The answer is yet to be written, and the future of Indian democracy hangs in the balance.